creative workshops from my Healing Art Happy Hour meetups. I'm Shauna Robeson with Creating Space Coastal, and in today's video, I will demonstrate how to make a treasure map, a fun way to visualize steps to achieving an important goal. Also, I will continue making progress on my mixed media vision board. Handouts for the introduction to this topic are available for download at my shop at creatingspacecoastal.com. Links are available in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful. Thank you and happy creating. Basically, this was just some craft paper, and then I just used some spray inks to, or I think it was actually distress inks to just, create these different markings in there. Okay. And then I wanted to make it really accessible for you guys. So I tried something else and I really liked how it turned out. So I went from, this is literally just like printer paper. Okay. And I was able to make this out of this printer paper. So and it's actually like a nice texture and everything. So that's what the first thing I'm going to show you, because that's fun and you can use it for lots of projects, not just for this project. So I'm going to show you the process, but not go through the whole step. And then I'll use this to demonstrate the rest of it, just so I can get it off the ground. But you do have to let it dry and things like that. So I just made up a mix of, it's instant coffee, like cheap dollar store instant coffee. Now, obviously this isn't archival friendly, so, keep that in mind, but it's fun. And then I just basically like sprayed. Now, unfortunately, this sprayer is going to give me problems because I'm filming. I find that this sprayer, of course I don't have well, I'm going to change sprayers because that one's going to take forever. Okay. Back to the program. All right, so I just basically spray the coffee all over, and I do this several times, like I let it dry, and then I spray it some more, and then the next thing I do is I just scrunch it up in a ball while it's wet, and then it smells good too. And just be careful. I mean, be careful not to like pull on it too hard, or it's going to be delicate, but it's almost fabricy. And then I'm just going to spray some more.
Shauna?
Yeah.
Is that brewed coffee or instant, or do you think it matters?
It's instant coffee, just mixed with cold water. It's not even heated.
Oh, okay, great.
Easy peasy. Yeah, I was trying to make it the easiest as possible. And I know that like to do this, people make they make a whole thing of coffee in a tray, and you can dip the whole, if you're trying to do lots of papers at the same time, like more volume, you could do a tray filled with that, or you can brew coffee, but why invest? Because instant coffee is probably, cheaper. I don't know for sure, but I'm not a huge coffee connoisseur. I actually drink instant coffee. So obviously I'm not like the coffee connoisseur person, because I know my coffee snob friends are like, instant coffees, that's not coffee, but it's great for crafts. If you're, I like it because I just want it when I want it. So you just basically keep spraying, and look at those cool, cool creases and things like that. Now, of course, it's going to dry lighter. And I also, what I didn't try before, but want to try with you guys. So, so we'll see how that goes, because sometimes try things and they don't work out. I have this silicone baking mat. Now this one's designed for baking, so it can handle heat. So I'm going to put that underneath this just to protect my non-heat resistant surface a little bit. And then I'm going to use my heat tool, and I'm wondering if that'll give it a little bit more crispiness. I don't know, but I was thinking that's kind of like the oven. I know that's loud, sorry. Let me, is that annoying for you guys to listen to that? I get a no. Okay, I'm gonna go with it. Because I'm always afraid I'm gonna forget to turn back on the sound when I do that, but it's not as loud as the hair dryer.
We could hardly hear it, Shauna.
Oh, okay, good.
It automatically mutes that kind of noise.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Technology, love it and hate it sometimes. Right now, I love it. Just make sure if you're using these, because this is a heat tool, okay? This is not just like a hair dryer. It can get really, really hot enough to melt, or, possibly, I don't know if it's hot enough to catch something on fire, but I imagine it could be if it's like paper. So just make sure you keep moving. Just be really careful not to, hold it in one space for a really long time. It's wet, so it probably, would take a long time for it to get dangerous, but I don't like to mess around with anything that's flammable, so. You can flip it around. And I mean, already, can you see that? I mean, it's just kind of like already cool without even, with just one layer. And I just basically keep every day, I would let it dry naturally. I didn't do this heat tool, but I would let it dry, and then I would just every day spray it a little bit more. And I think it's a really, okay, I've got something blue on my hand, so that I just put on there. That's okay. That's the water. That's the water section of the map. And you could probably even do this with a paper bag, if you just had a grocery bag or something like that, or, a gift bag, as long as it's not one of those, plasticky coated type papers. So whatever, some kind of scrap paper you have in the trash. Now, keep in mind if it's something in your recycle bin and it has writing on it, it's probably going to show through. So you probably do want a completely blank piece of paper for this, but I'm not positive. Only one way to find out. So you'll see as it's drying, it's getting lighter. So it's going to be lighter, but then it's going to, as I keep adding some more layers, like this is completely white, but as I continue to add layers, it gets darker. And then another cool thing that I did is I wanted to create some, like I set my cup of coffee down on the map, like an aged look. So I don't know. So I thought I'd make some rings with the coffee cup to make it look well used. So I just put a little bit of the coffee in a cap, and I just dip that on it. And of course you could use this for anything. I mean, just be aware, make sure, if you're using your coffee cup, you want to be able to wash whatever you're using it for, but you can use it as a stamp because it makes a cool, ring. So maybe one over here. And then I had dripped a couple drips and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I just want some splashes, so some drips. So then I was like, okay, let's just maybe drip get some splashes, like I spilled some coffee. So really you can have fun with this. I mean, it's really fun to create this paper, and there's no doing it wrong. And it's all it is one sheet of printer paper. So, you're not gonna break the bank if it doesn't go perfectly. Okay, so that's basically how I created this. I just kept playing with strips and splatters. And then I'll tell you what happened over here. This actually created like an island. Doesn't that look like, I mean, I could say, oh, this is a little island here. You know what I'm saying? Like I could actually make those part of the map. So I thought that was really kind of cool. But one thing I tried that didn't go well, I'll tell you about. I was trying to make like, you know, like a burn hole. And I had, this was damp. And I thought, okay, well, it won't burn real far because it's wet, right? So it'll dry the middle and then burn a hole and then it'll stop. Well, that's not correct. What happens if you try to burn wet paper is that this will keep drying it and it'll smolder and grow and grow and grow. And then you might burn yourself trying to get it out. So if you're going to try fire, just be really, really careful. Have some water ready. And that's what I did. I put some water on it to get it to go out because it literally was just growing bigger and bigger and it was going to take out my whole page. And so I put water on it, but that made this really cool water stain that looks like an island. So happy accident. I did have a little bit of a burnt finger, but so cautionary tale there. Now, the other thing you can do, which I haven't done yet, but because I want to show you guys everything from here on out, I'm going to do with this is I just to make these little, you know, again, to try to age the paper a little bit. I just made these little tears and whatnot around the edges. I think, oh, yeah, I think there was one I tried burning before. And the first time around, and I think it, no, maybe not. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I think I burnt this whole corner off. Anyway, I would say steer clear of the open flames with the paper, and that's probably the safest bet to go. So I can just, you know, I can tear out and then just like kind of roll that, like try to make it kind of roll back a little bit, or else you could even tear out a little V, you know, and then maybe take a little bit of the coffee, and I used ink, but you could probably take some of the coffee right on the edge and, you know, stain those edges a little bit more. So just creating these little, just worn looks. And you can even, you know, try to get the edges to curl up a little by rolling them, you know, maybe getting them wet a little bit. So just beat up the paper. It's really therapeutic. Get out any kind of aggression that you might feel from the day. This is a safe way to do that. So play around with just, you know, beating it up a little bit. Better to beat up the paper than the neighbor or whatever. I don't know who you might be upset, the bad driver, whoever you're upset with. Have fun with it. But I do think, you know, tearing paper can be therapy. So yeah, just tear up little corners or whatever. And then now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of the project. But that's really, I mean, this is like the creative part. And let's see what I'm gonna say. So then you want to think about what kind of goal it is that you want to achieve. Now, if there's a big goal you have for the year, some big theme that you want, you know, to get to, a big hurdle, shall we say, that would be a good candidate for this type of project. You want to think about something that's going to take, you know, a bit of work and grit, and then you can brainstorm about the steps that it might take to get there. So visually, I'm going to think about where I want my X to be. X marks the spot. And I'm going to use a pencil just to kind of get an idea of where I'm going. And then I can create an idea of how to get there. So I'm going to say that, because this kind of looks like a little island. So I'm going to say that this is my final destination. That's kind of fun. So I'm just going to put a little X there. And then I'm going to probably start here with my, because this is wet. So I'm going to start here with my ship. And I just did a little, I mean, I've done a little couple variations of a little tall ship. So that one's a little more complicated. This one's a little more simple. So it's basically just, you know, a little, basically, I don't know what that is. What shape that is, kind of a, I want to say boat shape, but it's it's easy lines. And then just these little wonky rectangles to make the sails, and then one triangle, a wonky triangle to make your ship. Or you can make your ship any way you want. Your boat, it could just be simple. So I'm going to say my boat's here, and I'm going to just draw that in with my pencil too. Let's see, I'm going to get a harder surface to draw on. And okay, there's my ship. And then this is my X marks the spot. So I'm going to just create a roundabout way to get there. That'll give me plenty of space to work with. So you want to just give yourself enough space to make sure you get all your parts to it. You don't have to know how many parts you have right at this point. You just give yourself a nice long, trail. You can do that if you know exactly I'm going to have 4 steps before I get there. You can do a shorter route, but I just think it's fun to wind it about and give you more places to create. So I'm going to actually I'm gonna do this with, go ahead with my Sharpie, because I don't want to have to write over dash marks. So I'm just going to basically make dash marks from my boat. I'm going to pretend like there's a small straight in between there. If you want to draw a little pencil line just to kind of figure out your route, you can, but I'm just gonna wing it here. All right, and then put my X there, and I'm gonna move it down a little bit so it's right here. A wonky X. And then I'll fill that in once I have bigger Sharpie than this. Okay, and now I can think about what it is that I want to put on there other than that. One of the things that I added to one and I liked it was to put a little compass rose that has your values. And I didn't, I wrote them in a really light print, But if you think about the challenge or whatever it is that you're working on, and what values that are your core values that it takes that is guiding you to that goal. So it may not be all of your values, but there might be certain ones that really drive that particular goal that you're trying to make. So think about what are the things that are important to you, what are the core values that are important to you that are driving you towards that goal, and then you can put that in your compass rose. And so I'm going to put my compass rose up here. Now, basically it's a circle. I'm going to hand draw. You can be as fancy as you want, but I'm just going to hand draw. I'm going to make it smaller. And then I'm just going to make like a little, it's like a little triangle, pointy arrow thing going that way. And then same thing going that way. And then maybe put a tick in the middle of that. So it's like the north, south, west, east, west, I think. Okay, and then I'm just going to write down those. Well, I'll write down the values that I think are part of this particular goal. Now, my goal is going to be I'm working on getting my Mexican. I'm going to just write it in here. I'll put it next to my X. I'm going to say, I'm trying to get my Mexican residency. So I'm working on getting a permanent visa so I can live down here and not be on a tourist visa and have to renew it every 6 months. And it's a really tall order. So what values that I'm using to think about this is I really want to, assimilate to this culture, really live here, be here, and settle in. So it's important, as far as the culture goes, respect is important to me. I want security. I think I had a different idea of what I was going to do because I wrote down different things, but security, let's see. I want simplicity, trying to simplify my life. So not having to do that all the time. What else is important?
These are all being added by your compass rose, not just around the map itself.
Right. So these are the values that guide me. So those are like the compass that guides you on your journey. That's what the values do. So when you're making decisions along the way, you can look back and say, okay, does this support, my values? So it's really tying in all your decisions based on some core values that you have. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yes, I muted myself, so I was trying to get unmuted again. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I was just trying to think of another one. I think I'm going to leave it for there, and I'll probably have several more that I'll add at some point in time. And then I want to think about the steps of getting it. The first thing I had to do, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and now with my marker, I can draw in my boat. So I'm going to start thinking about what are the steps. And what I would do is brainstorm the steps on a different piece of paper, not on your map. So think about the steps that it takes to get from point A to point B. So for me, I'm going to put that down here, Mexican residency. And then I'm going to think backwards, Because sometimes it's easier to know like what's the step before the final than it is to know the first step. And then I'll work back, you know. So I need to, I'll be able to pick up my card. My card. I have to pay at the bank. I have to have an appointment with the consulate. You want to know all this? And I'm not going to go through all the steps because we'd be here all night. It's a very complicated process. And that's actually, this is one of the biggest challenges, I think, the appointment with the consulate, which is what I'm trying to get now. Find help. So that was my first step, find help. Okay, so now I'm going to think about, I'm going to just have these, I might have more, but I'm just doing that for the sake of time. I'm just going to have these particular ones that I'm going to work on. So the first step is going to be find help. So I'm going to think about where my path is going. Again, you could do this the other way where you put in all of the steps and then you can later go in and draw your line to fit everywhere. So it's up to you and how you want to go about that. It might be easier to do it that way. I think that's how I did it in the past, but I just wanted to work with all these fun textures. So I want to kind of see where I was going to be going. All right, so I think the first thing is I'm going to say, so then I'm going to think of witty names to call, to call these little, I call it island hopping, these little steps to my goal. So this is going to be, Help Island, I think. Help Island. Okay. And then I'm going to say, this is going to be the appointment is the next step. So I'm going to say appointment pass, or appointment canal, because this looks like a little canal. So I'm going to say appointment canal. And then I'm going to say pay the bank. So this is going to be, and make sure I have the money. So I'm going to call this I'm going to make this little mountain. This is going to be money mountain of money. So I'm going to add little dollar signs to money mountain. Okay, and then I have plenty of space still, so I'm going to put over here I call this card pass. And then actually, before this is also full of money, this help. So first, I think the first thing I need is the first thing was the money. So actually, I'm gonna say money straight. I had to save money to pay for help.
Need to put a treasure chest there.
Oh, that's a good idea. Good idea.
Little coins.
Yeah. little treasure chest, although I'm actually giving money, so really.
You have to have it to give.
Yeah, exactly. I have to find it first and then I can give it. Okay. And that's the fun part is then like once you have all these things, you can start doing the little visuals to fill in. So it's getting like, you know, getting these little things down there first. Let's see. And then I have to look at the list. I'm sure there's several more things, but I'm going to work with what I have because I could spend all night doing this. So I think what I think of when I think of help is I think of a hand. So I'm just going to put a little helping hand. Kind of waving there. And then this getting an appointment, this should be actually, this is one of the biggest challenges. Because it's all about calling, it's waiting on the, this really should be a mountain too. But I'm going to put a clock there because this one takes time and patience. So that's going to take some time. And the other thing that's going to be a challenge throughout this is the language. Oh, that's what I'm going to do, this language barrier. The language barrier reef over here. Because I'm still learning. That was the other one I was going to do, is being fluent in Spanish. Barrier reef. Okay. And so, say, Espanol. Oops, I did that backwards. So that's a big challenge that would really help me if I could get that going better. And this part is really like almost to the finish line. So yeah, so I think it should be like a little bubble. Hola. Hola. So then you just basically fill in with graphics that make sense for you. This is my card. So I'm just going to make a little picture of a card with my picture of me on it. And then fill in that, and there you go. So then I can just put that somewhere where it's like, okay, what's my next step? Or I just have a visual showing that I'm making my progress, and I can kind of watch my progress. I can go, okay, I've gotten through this step. Now I'm onto this step. And you can look back at your values and make sure that, you know, as you're going on your path, that you are aligned with what your values are and what's important to you. And that also reminds you of why you want to do this. This is like your motivator, you know, what's important to you. Why are you doing this in the first place? And then that hopefully will just motivate you to move closer and closer to your treasure. Your X marks the spot. Actually, I should have a picture of a treasure there. I'm going to fill
Shauna,
in.
I missed it. How did you make the hole?
Oh, that's the fire hazard. I don't, so did you miss when I talked about the fire?
Yeah, I guess I did.
Okay, so I was trying to find I just wanted to make a little hole with, and I thought, okay, it's wet paper. I can just use like one of those starter wands with a flame. And when it caught fire, I thought, okay, it'll put it out because it's wet around. But what happened is it just started smoldering and growing and growing and growing. So I actually had to pour water on it, which created this really cool effect, actually. So, but that's how I got the hole. So be very careful if you're going to try to do, be ready with water, do it in like, a sink or something if you're going to try to do that, but just be careful. It doesn't always behave the way you think it's going to behave. But that's how I got the hole. And it looks cool. I like the hole.
I like it. I thought you did it on purpose.
Oh, I did. It just got out of hand. I thought it was going to be a smaller hole, and then it was
okay.
It was smoldering and smoldering and smoldering, and I couldn't blow it out because every time I blew it, it just made it grow faster, right? Because you're adding air to smoldering flame. And so I literally just had to grab, I burned my finger and so I just wasn't prepared. So if you're prepared, I think you could do, it could be cool. Be aware that, it makes a little bit charred area, and that could be fun because you can make, use that as little like charcoal on the edges. But yeah, it's a fun effect, and you could do it, you could have a couple of them. Just be aware that, it might burn faster than you imagine. So just be prepared with water. Like I said, in the sink, if you have like a stainless steel sink and you have the water running and you just, start it and then get it under the water as quickly as possible. Or just have a spray bottle, something, just make sure that you are, have it under control because it just wasn't what I expected. But it did create this really cool island, and I wasn't even trying for that. So, I mean, I did that with this other coffee drips and stuff too. So you don't have to burn yourself to get that, but it's one way to do it.
Shauna, what is good paper for this kind of project?
Well, this is the one I did out of just computer. This is printer paper. This is just a piece of printer paper and it's not the thickest printer paper either. Because I wanted to show how it is with just the basic of paper. So
thank you.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. The other two that I did, I use a little thicker paper, but really I think I like this because it kind of reminds me a little more like parchment paper. It's delicate, but I thought it worked really well. And most of us have basic printer paper already on hand. So I'm going to pause for just a moment and open it up to any shares or questions before I move on to my mixed media project. So let me go ahead and stop this so I can just pause the recording. I'm going to move all these things. And I may just continue working on this project with any extra time we have in future days too. I don't know. We'll see how far we get because it does take a little bit longer for mixed media projects because you have to wait for things to dry in layers. I'm going to move all my changing up the guard here. Okay. All right. Like I said, I have some ideas, but I haven't got it all figured out. So I have a general direction I want to go. Sometimes there's too many directions that one can go, and that can get you stuck just as much as not having an idea of where to go. Sometimes that's more often the case because we're so creative. We have so many ideas and we just don't know which direction to choose. So sometimes we just have to move, just go and see where things take us. Now, last time, let me see if I can get my screen. Move this a little bit. I'll try to get the whole I'm trying to get everything in the screen. Move this guy up a little bit. Changing my camera. There we go. I want to get everything in there. Okay. So last time, this is where I got to. And one little tip I wanted to share, when you're working with canvas, and when you paint the side, if you set it to dry and there's paint there, it'll stick to whatever the surface is. So one way to avoid that is there's these giant push pins. You can use small ones too, but I found these giant push pins. I just tap them in around the corner and then lifts it from my surface. Is there a question?
We can't see.
Oh,
We can't see.
oh, I did it again, you guys. Thank you. Jeez. Okay, let's start back. There we go. Let's start back with visuals too. Okay. Thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that. All right.
Are you
so
recording, Shauna?
Yeah, I'm recording. Thank you. I did start the recording, but this time I forgot to start the share. All right. So I basically have these giant push pins and I put them in as little feet on my canvas. And that keeps my canvas off my workstation. And that way, if I get any glue or paint or anything along the side or on the workstation, it's not going to get on my canvas. So it just basically lifts your canvas off the workstation a little bit, so that I can paint the side without hitting my surface and I can dry it without it sticking the canvas to my surface. Because if you have paint on the side and it's sitting on some surface, then when you try to lift it, it might be stuck and you might damage some of the painting. So it's nice to have it not quite sitting flat on the surface. Okay, so where to go next? The next thing I want to do, the next layer I want to think about is texture, because I want to do my pigment over the texture. So you do have to do a little bit of planning to know where you're going to some extent, because you do have to do certain layers in a certain order, or else it may not work out. So you have to think a little bit, but or you can go with it, and some things work better in certain orders than others. So I really liked this one. I showed you guys that last time. It has this root system. So I kind of want to try to get that in there as more, I want it visible. So I want at least part of it visible. So I'm thinking about how to get that on there. And I want her in the middle of it. And then I was thinking about, I wanted the tree, and I was thinking maybe I could have the tree coming out of her body. So that's where I'm going. That's what I'm heading for. And I think I can make that work. So I want to keep that in mind, because I want to know where I can put some other things that I'm going to be working with, because I don't want to obstruct where I want to put these guys. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put these guys down, even though I'm going to, these would have been good to put down with the rest of the collage stuff, but I hadn't figured that out yet. So that's okay. I can put them down now. Go grab another part of this layer. You really have to think about mixed media as kind of like a sandwich. The canvas is the first piece of bread, and then gesso, which is on the canvas usually already, is sort of like, the mayo. So you start building sandwich from the ground up. Okay. Get my okay. I'm hearing some, or was just that an accidental unmute? Okay, I think that was just a accidental unmute. So I'm going to mute you. If it was somebody coming in for a question, I apologize. Please feel free to come back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead using my matte Mod Podge because I don't have the matte acrylic medium, which honestly, I'm actually ordered that because I think that's one of the things that I don't really have that I think is really going to be helpful for my mixed media year, because I really want to do more of these mixed media things. So while Mod Podge is fine, it's just not as matte and it has that finisher in it, that varnish. And so I just feel like it's not the ideal tool for the task. So it'll work for some things, but not for everything. So also gonna losing a lot of my things that I like, but I really like this. So, all right, I want it to be down here. And I'm going to try to get those wrinkles out, and I'm just going to use this old credit card. Work out air pockets. I didn't do that enough last time when there was a lot of wrinkles in mine, but I don't mind the wrinkles because those are just texture now. But if you don't want the wrinkles, you got to make sure when you're putting it down to use some kind of scraper or something and work those bubbles out right away. Especially on the thinner paper, it's prone to doing some buckling. I just love the burn. I don't know. And I love those roots. Those really work with my grounded theme. So I just had to do it. So here we are. And then I want like in there. Okay. So now I kind of know where my tree is going to be going. Another thing that's really like grounding is sort of like building, stable, building a brick wall. So I have this stencil. It's actually the paperboard that there were little bricks inside that popped out and you could use the bricks. And so I kept it and used it as a stencil, and I've since put some varnish on it. So I'm hoping that'll keep it from falling apart, because I think over time, because it's made of paper board, it'll disintegrate. But I'm hoping doing that will help keep it from disintegrating. I'll be able to use it for a long time like that. So I want to create some brick wall texture down at the bottom. So I'm going to use a texture paste. Now you can use, if you don't have a texture paste specifically, a modeling paste, you can use a heavy gel medium. You can use a heavy gesso. You can also use paintable caulking is another option. And you can use like joint compound or spackle, like if that's what you have. Again, remember the whole archival. It may not be archival, but it if you don't care, then those kinds of things you might have around the house. There's a lot of recipes for gesso, and next month I'll be sharing some that I found. You can make your own gesso. Gesso is basically acrylic paint mixed with a ground medium like chalk, So, and just to give it some tooth. I mean, sorry, I'm not talking about gesso, I'm talking about texture paste. Texture paste is essentially kind of like gesso that's really thick because it has the same thing. It has a lot of the like the texture that you would use. This is flexible modeling paste, so this is probably more similar to that paintable caulking. Let me see if I can. So see how it looks kind of like paste, or it almost looks like a clay mask would look like. So that's what I'm gonna use for now. And you know what else I want to do? See how this goes. I'm gonna add to that mixture, speaking of ground, add a little bit of, or maybe more than a little bit of, some of my beach sand that I got from the beach right outside. So I'm going to make it real sandy. So that's going to be interesting. I need to get need something that I can use to mix my paste on. Give me just a second. Let's see. This might be too thick. It might. Well, I'm going to give it a try. And this sand here is pretty dark, so I don't know, it might end up looking black, but I have some of this modeling paste, which is really thick. And I'm going to just add some sand and see what happens. Try not to spill any of that sand on my paper. And again, probably not archival, but totally what I'm trying to do as far as put elements in my vision board that relate to my life. So part of that is being grounded. And in this case, the ground here is a lot of sand. So I thought it'd be really cool to incorporate that into my piece. It kind of looks like Oreo cookie ice cream, which is yummy.
I was thinking the same thing as you were doing that.
Great minds think alike. Everything looks like food to me. So, but if it can look like Oreos, man, it's gonna look like Oreos because I like
Amen.
it. So it looks pretty yummy. And the modeling paste, we'll see. I think it tends to be clear if it's thin enough, but if it's too thick, it's probably going to be on the whiter side. So we'll see how this turns out. It's getting even harder to mix. So I'm going to go ahead and get moving. But now I have this yummy Oreo cookie looking concoction. And I'm going to build some bricks. Now you can use a, old credit card as a spatula if you want for this. And I don't want to fill every single brick, but I might have to mix up some more because I'm not sure. This stencil is very, very thick because it's a pretty thick chipboard that it's made of. So it's going to make some really, really high bricks. Stencils come in different thicknesses. Some of them are really, really thin and are great for just, for doing painting with and whatnot, but not, maybe you might not get as much thickness in the texture if you try to use it for texture. So just be aware that there are different thicknesses in stencils that may impact your project. All right, let's see if I can. I really want more. It feels like it's drying like as I work. So I want more, but I feel like I may not get more because it might just take my whole stencil. So there's some really cool thick bricks in that corner. And I'm going to try to mix up some more and make some more bricks on this other corner too. Yeah, those are, I don't know if you can see that real well, but those are nice and some three-dimensional bricks over there. I think I would probably use a heavy gel medium instead. I'm actually going to try that. I'm going to try to use a different kind of modeling paste or texture paste, I should say, because that was a little bit thick, a little bit too, it just was drying too quickly. So let me clean off my palette knife. Because I don't want to put sand in, but I'm really excited about that. That's really fun. All right, so I'm going to try it with, in fact, I actually got this really super heavy gesso because you can always thin it down. So if you're just going to get one thing, you can get gesso. It can play as the white paint. It can be the gesso primer, and it can also act as a modeling paste. So, so that's a really cool way to not have to buy a bunch of different things. So I'm going to try that with this. This is the super heavy gesso. And I'm going to see how that works. It's definitely a softer consistency to start with. So I think it's going to just be a little bit easier to mix my, it's a little bit more like a Greek yogurt texture. So I think that's going to be a little bit easier to use, especially mixing with sand. Tablespoons of the sand. Oh yeah, it's just easier to move around. I'm really excited about this year in the mixed media because I've done mixed media in the past, and I mean, I do a lot of different things, and I just think that this is a way that I can bring everything together and join all of my interests into one and use more of my fun things that I have. Now this doesn't look as much like the Oreo cookies. Maybe I could add more of the sand and it would, but this is a white gesso, so this is not gonna, this is hiding the color. So that's the difference. The paste is probably more clear. And if I used the gel medium, the thick gel medium, as opposed to the gesso, it would be more clear and you'd see more of the color of the sand. This would work really well for the tree, I think. I feel like I want to make this the tree. I just like that texture because I kind of want to make the bricks the same as that, so the same color. So I think I might try to use this for the tree. It's kind of an organic process, as you can see. It's not linear. There's not a linear path to any of this because you have to let your intuition guide you through the process too. I think that's, at least for me. Now I need more space. What I need my camera out of the way. But next time I'm going to have my other camera arm, so I'm going to be able to work better with that. Okay, this is kind of gluing my thing down because the Mod Podge isn't completely dry. It's still tacky, so I'm going to work quick so it doesn't try to but it's gonna help actually hold my stencil down a little bit. So I'm gonna try it, see what happens. Just going for it. Sometimes that's what you just have to do, is go for it and see what happens. The great thing about this is I can just paint over anything that I don't like, you know? So when you're working with acrylics, that's the beauty of acrylics, is you can just paint over a whole canvas if you want. If you paint a canvas and then you go, oh, you know what, that didn't work. In fact, I'm going to be doing that soon. I have a canvas that a mixed media I did years ago, and it worked for that time frame. It worked for the space that I was using it for back in Minnesota. But it's not working for my current life. And I thought, you know, I'm just gonna gesso over the top of the whole thing. Here's a big rock. And then I'm going to paint it a new color. And I like the texture that's underneath. Okay, I didn't mix up enough because I didn't know I was doing the tree just yet. But I'm going to go as far as I can. This is a fairly thin stencil, so it's not going to make a real thick layer. I'm trying to do it single-handedly because I don't have a lot of workspace here. So hopefully I'm not getting a lot of it underneath the stencil, but find out when I lift. Main thing is keep it fun. You know, if anything when you're creating starts to get stressful, it's time to take a break. Doesn't mean you have to walk away forever, but it just means that it's time to step away from that for that moment. I really want to do this side too, but I'm a little bit out of stuff. So I'm going to quickly mix some more. Now you can use, as far as additives, to this thick gesso or to a gel medium. I mean, the sky's the limit. You could use different herbs that might be colored even. You can use the coffee. I think if you use coffee grounds, you might get some of the color, but you'll also get the texture. If you use the instant coffee, you're going to get the color, but not the texture because it'll dissolve, probably. Chances are. Okay. I like that texture. I like that sandy goodness. Okay. All right. I just want to get the rest of this tree filled in. I should be pulling down this. So hopefully I didn't get too much under the stencil, but I'm gonna go ahead and carefully, now this is delicate stencil, there we go, and we have trees. Oh yeah, digging that, digging the trees. Digging the trees. All right, and I think if I would have used just the gel medium, I wouldn't have got that thickness because the sand actually added to that. Now I really want to add some branches over. I really would like some branches over there, but the problem is, and I've done this before, is if I don't let that dry before I start lay this down over the top of it, it's going to just smash and smear my tree. So you do really have to let the stencils, let that dry. So I can use the heat tool and try to get it to dry quicker. I'm going to go ahead and go wash this the tree stencil, I really do want to add some more branches going that way. So I'm going to wash this and let it dry a little bit for that time. And then I'm going to maybe put a few more branches there. So I will be right back. More this time because I want to make my brick wall a little bigger on that side. So I think I'm getting pretty much using almost all of my what I have. This is a pretty big project, so all right. Get some just mix that up and then see how it looks. I just have an acrylic mat here. Mixing up my Oreo ice cream, cookies and cream. I'm trying to mix it quickly because I know that this modeling paste starts to dry quickly. So, all right, good enough. Now, let's set it on my tree. Especially want it down here at the bottom. Make it go out a little bit further. Side a little bit. You'll make cakes. Think of it like similar to icing a cake. Really thick frosting. Definitely looks kind of like a brick wall with that texture. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yummy. Loving that. Okay. Now I'm going to clean off this stencil before this. Okay. All right, what other texture do I want? Well, add it in here. I like this. This is kind of like a, looks like cracked earth or bark. I was thinking about doing something with it on the tree, but I might want to use it as a texture as well. All right, so I think that would be a cool, I think that would be a nice texture to have. So I'm going to go ahead and use now the gonna try something different. I'm gonna use the super gloss super heavy gel. I don't want gloss, but it is what it is. I don't know why everything I have is gloss. Apparently I went through a gloss phase. I bought some things for a particular project and everything was glossy. And I like, you know, I like a glossy finish, but gloss just doesn't, things don't stick to gloss as well as they stick to a matte finish. So, okay, so I'm just gonna randomly, not putting it through the whole thing, just I'm gonna randomly down, little texture. Now this particular pattern would be really difficult with a thick paste because it's such a small pattern. So you have to be aware of that too. This might actually make really nice pattern over where the roots are. Kind of like a root pattern. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And I'm just gonna go. You do have to wash things pretty quickly because these are all adhesives that, you know, they're all things with basically levels of glue and stickiness. And so if you don't wash them pretty quickly, they can damage your brushes or your tools. So unfortunately, you have to do a lot of rinsing. Okay, so we are at 8:47. And I don't want to take up our share time. So, and I could obviously work on this. I will be working on this probably for days, but I think I've got most of my texture. I do want to add more branches going out this way. And then I think that'll be done with my primary texture layer. There might be something that I want to put on top, but I think what I want for the undercoat of texture is there. There's one thing I want to try to do that caught my eye just now. I don't know if it's too late, but I kind of want this to meld into the body a little bit. So let's see if I can bring that in a little bit. Anyway, okay. I'm just scratching it back a little bit just because I want it to, and I might add some more down into the body, so we'll see. But So I'm gonna just zoom in so I can show you guys the details of what I have. So, and I want to show you at an angle so you can see three-dimensionally. So the bricks in the frame. The bricks are the thickest. You can see how thick those are. Those are really, really textured. Then the next one is the other set of bricks. Those ones I think I had less sand to the texture paste. They're still really thick, but just a little not quite as rough texture. And then the tree is the next thickest in texture, and that had the sand as well. And then the smallest texture is those little crackles. Those are more subtle. So now when I do any painting over any of that, those are just going to be texture under there. And some of it I'm going to paint, some of it I'm not. We'll see how that goes next time. So there's that layer. All right, let me stop.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Healing Art After Hours. You can download materials related to this topic, including PDF notes of PowerPoint presentations, at creatingspacecoastal.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you found this content helpful, and join me for the next video here at my Creating Space Coastal channel, where I hope to inspire you to create space in your life for fun. Thank you.